We're ready.
All right, we will call the Audit Committee meeting of July 17, 2008 to order and ask if this meeting is in compliance with the open meeting law.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Our first item of business would be the approval of the final minutes for the April 24th, 2008 Audit Committee meeting. Are there any corrections or additions? Hearing none, entertain a motion for approval. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And we will now hear a general report from the city auditor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, currently the following audits and projects are in process. First one is a financial, it's a parking ticket collection audit, and it's in the reporting phase, being led by Philip Marmorowski. The Metro Police funding is in the planning stage, being led by Brian Smith. D&E intake is in the planning stage, being led by Nancy Beatty. Sanitary Sewer System Maintenance Division, it's in the reporting phase, being led by Brian Smith. Credit card reporting is Bill Simo, and it's currently on hold. Citywide software, Philip Marmorowski, and it's currently on hold. Purchase professional services contracts is Philip Marmorowski, and that one's in the reporting phase. As far as investigations, we have 13 investigations in process and 2 control reviews that have been completed. As far as training is concerned, since April the 24th, 2008, the following training has been completed in fulfillment of the 2008 requirement. The first one up there noted was a security training, computer and security conference, and it was 24-hour CPEs, 1 attended, and that was at 0 cost. This was done by Mr. Simo, who is involved in that organization. It's ISACA, and he was involved in that, and so we were able to get the benefit of that. On the next one is the conflict management negotiation skills. 6 of our auditors attended that one at $100 apiece. 4 of our auditors attended that one with 6 hours. The third one on the 14th of May was trends in identity theft, and also six auditors attended that one, 2-hour CPE. This one was at no cost because it was part of the cost of belonging to the organization that put that on. The last one is on June the 9th, was quick response audits. It was 16 hours attended by 1 staff member, and that included some out-of-town travel to do that one. It was $1,191. This concludes my report.
Any comments or questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman?
Mr. Snelding, the parking ticket collections audit or project? Is Mr. Marmorowski here? Yes. Okay. Hi. Good morning. Could you tell me what you're doing? Is it an audit or a project or both?
Well, it's a little bit of both. This was one that you previously approved. It was one that was requested by Mark Vincent, and we're looking at this is tied into.
Well, it must be worthwhile.
Of course. I think one of the outgrowths of that is actually the amnesty.
The moratorium?
Yeah, the moratorium was one of the issues that came up while we were working on that. We were looking specifically at the practices in the collections unit and some of the things related to that, which was we spent a lot of time, and we're almost to the end of that, but we spent a lot of time looking at individual records of collections to determine the reasons, why certain certain fees or penalties were waived, and that was the concentration that we were working on in that area.
For the record, Mark Vincent, he's being very politically polite. We had some concerns about certain waiver type transactions, so we asked him to take a look, and then there were some other recommendations.
Okay. Who watches Channel 3 in the room? Channel 3 News. Raise your hand. Who watches Channel 3 News at 5 o'clock in the morning? Raise your hand.
Is anybody?
Who watched Channel, there was 3, I think, for the record, Mr. Workman. Who watched Channel 3 News yesterday at 5 o'clock in the morning? Who watched what Tom Hawley said yesterday morning at about 5 after 5 during his traffic report? Yesterday morning, they had a little news announcement of our City of Las Vegas traffic moratorium on Channel 3. And Tom Hawley, who I think is a friend of mine, announced, well, you know, I've got a ticket with the City of Las Vegas. It's a parking ticket, and I've had it for 4 years. And this is how he enunciated his announcement. You know, traffic ticket for 4 years in the city, and I'm fighting it, and it's been 4 years, 4 years. Okay. You know, in conjunction with the announcement of our moratorium and come in and get your ticket settled. So I called Tom yesterday to basically, you know, offer any service or any help that we could give him. 4 years. He called back, and the message was, oh, it was a speeding ticket, and it's been in the system 1.5 years. So, and he said, thank you for your help. I'm going to leave it alone because he's fighting it. He said he's fighting it. That was the message. I'm fighting it. Thanks for your help.
Call that the media multiplier.
So, just a little lighthearted story involving parking tickets. Okay, that's it, Mr. Chairman. Sorry.
Thank you. And for the record, Mr. Redline, that was not an endorsement of the city's preference for Channel 3. We are a city neutral when it comes to the media and our preferences. Okay, then we'll entertain a motion.
To accept the report? So moved.
Second.
Very good. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Item number 5.
Item number 5 is a discussion and possible action on the FY 2008-2009 annual audit plan. The City Auditor's Office audits from an annual audit plan. The plan identifies performance audits selected for the fiscal year. All entities within the organization will be audited on a basis of risk, exposure, based on risk analysis, and a 10-year audit cycle. High-risk entities are audited 3 times during the audit cycle, medium twice, and low-risk once. This plan allows for substitutions based on the mayor and council and the audit committee requests. The audit plan allows for computer assistance on audits, follow-ups, investigations, cash counts, and other miscellaneous activities. By approving this plan, the City Auditor's Office can initiate these audits without having to return to the committee to obtain authorization. The plan that is up here and displayed is a little bit different than what is in your packets. This is, we considered some additional criteria, and we changed it just a bit. So that's our plan. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer those.
All right. Bev, did you get a corrected copy?
Yeah, I just got it.
Okay. All right. Comments or questions from the committee? Then we'll entertain a motion to accept the plan.
If I can mention ask one
Please.
question. The intergovernmental agreements, the last one citywide, is that related to that study we were going to have done of Metro?
No. In fact, we're going to talk about that in just a moment. I think that's the next thing. But no, the intergovernmental agreement that we're talking about, there are, we have a number of general intergovernmental agreements, many of them, and we are going to identify some, at least 1 or 2, and look at those and see, and do an evaluation of those. See if they meet the criteria as far as controls adequate to monitor those.
Okay, thank you. I would move for acceptance of the plan.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That plan has been accepted. Item number 6.
Item number 6 is discussion and possible action on audit of Metropolitan Police funding. As I previously reported, Jerry Carroll, Clark County Auditor, has stated that Clark County does not want to participate in the audit. I contacted the sheriff's office to determine the status. Karen Keller, the finance director in the sheriff's office, stated that the sheriff would not discuss this until he'd been contacted by the county manager and city manager. Given the current budget constraints, the cost of an outside audit of the funding formula, and the limited payout potential, which would just be a reallocation of costs, I would recommend that we discontinue this project for now until more discretionary budget is available. And that would be my recommendation on this one.
Comments or questions from the committee?
Yes, sir.
Councilman?
Would you please regurgitate, if you will, again, what was our purpose in having this audit?
This was an area, a great deal of our budget goes to Metro, a huge percentage of it. And the one area that affects us and determines what that mix is that we pay of their total budget is the funding formula. So that's why we identified the funding formula as a good candidate to look at.
Why? Why did we select that project? Why are we doing this, Brad? Why are we attempting to do it? I guess we may not do it, but why did we want to potentially do this?
The funding formula itself is within statute, and but it's driven by the data that Metro collects. And so our interest was to look at the data that they did collect, see that it was collected in a manner that would give good results, good representative results of what the funding formula would really try to do. So that was the purpose of it, to see that the data
supports the end result formula.
Basically, that's
Okay.
it.
Okay, and that was our objective, and we invited the county to participate and share in the cost of the audit because it's a costly thing, thinking
Yes.
that both entities would want the same kind of result. Let's see what the figures show. Let's see if they support the formula. But is that right? Or
Yes, that's
okay.
right. That's
but
correct.
The county has decided that they don't want to participate.
Well, let me take you back just a little bit further in the explanation. When we approached the county, not the county, when we approached Metro to do the audit, Metro said that they could see, they didn't say this, but they could see looking down the road, if we did an audit that substantially changed the mix based on findings from that audit, and we would ask them to adjust what had been paid or adjust prospectively how it would be affected by whatever we found. Well, then they saw the potential that they would be caught in between the city demanding that they redo that and the county saying we like it the way it is. So what they wanted us to do was to do it in conjunction with the county, which makes sense. And we spent some time, and at first the county didn't want to do it, then the county decided they wanted to do it, and before we could get it up and running, well, then here we are.
The county pays a greater portion, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mark may be able to answer specifically on that, but theirs is slightly higher.
I don't remember the figures.
The county pays the way the current funding formula, the statistics that drive the formula, they're about 61%, 61.5%. We're about 39, 38.5, somewhere around there.
How
So
much-
they pay more. And the issue with the statistics, the reason why they're important is when you get a call for service or felony crime, for example, Sahara Boulevard, what side of the street are you? That's the kind of thing that we would be looking at, where the crimes or calls were responded to, what jurisdiction were they truly in. That was, I think, the purpose of the audit. It wasn't to audit the formula itself, as is prescribed by statute. It was to audit the statistics that Metro keeps in order to.
Sure, and that's what Mr. Snelling said, and that's a good example. I understand that. How much would an audit like this cost?
Well, we're not sure. I'm not exactly sure what it would cost, because the next step after we decided to do it was to issue an RFP and ask for bids on what specifically specifically identify the project and then issue an RFP. My thinking is that it's going to be above 50,000 and close somewhere between 50 and 100,000 is what I
It
would
would not
guess.
be done in-house, in other words.
No, and the reason we didn't want to do it in-house, that was one thing we thought about doing. On the other hand, well, and what we thought about, if we did it in-house, we still have that same stigma with we're trying to manipulate it so that it's to the city's advantage, or the county's trying to manipulate it to their advantage. So to just get rid of that entire argument, we would go outside and have a third party come in and do it. And I think that's when the county began to be interested in it, but I think funding has slapped them in the face on this issue, and I think that's why they want out, or they don't want to participate. And if we were going to go ahead with it, my suggestion would be to go ahead and pay for the entire audit ourselves, but include them in and just give them a free ride. That way, we answer the problem that Metro had with one party being involved and the other party not being involved. So it means we basically pay the whole fee on it.
Once the audit was done, we'd have a written report. We'd have an audit. We'd have findings. And then what anybody did with those findings would be another discussion. In other words,
Yes.
the people that have the power to do anything may say, thanks, and we appreciate it, but see you later. Or they might say, wow, that's interesting, and would it then be an effort at the legislature to adjust those formulas based upon those different facts or inconsistent information?
I think it's more likely, and I'm speculating now, I think it's more likely what would happen is the review board might become involved in it and might discuss that, which we have. I think we have two members of the council that sit on that review board. As far as changing what's in statute, I'm not sure that would help us at all, because I think there's 5 issues, isn't it? I think 5 issues. It's been a while since we looked at this, but I think there's 5 issues related to the funding formula. And I'm not saying they're bad. I think the real question is, are they accurate? What's the old IT saying, garbage in, garbage out? I think they have a good system of collecting, but we'd like to test it.
Okay, thank you.
And the city has been, I'm guessing the last 2 or 3 go-rounds on the criteria, we've actually stayed the same or been lowered.
We had a reduction for about
Right.
4 years in a row. This year, it's been flat in terms of our percentage.
So we're certainly not going to complain about that component of it. It's a fair system. It's a fair system.
But, we have,
Mark,
Vincent, for the record.
And I want you to jump in, but one of the concerns a few years back was that I don't know what cycle, but there was a kind of a jump back and forth, and a jump of a percentage point is upwards of $1 million, or so that inconsistency, that's like last minute we have to come up with $1 million or $2 million. That's what kind of generated the interest originally with the audit committee.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to mention that these things do need to be reviewed occasionally. We had a situation here recently with the Animal Foundation contract, where we share fees now based upon animals in which jurisdiction they come into. And we discovered in our review, staff's review for prevention and enforcement, that certain animals, if they were dropped off at the animal shelter, because the animal shelter goes into the city of Las Vegas, they're automatically being assigned to the city of Las Vegas when the resident that dropped them off oftentimes came from Clark County, North Las Vegas. So those things just need to be reviewed periodically to make sure that the systems are working properly.
Now, a question I would have is, Mr. Chairman, would the review committee you talk about, would they be able to do a little bit of findings on this on their end without ordering a full audit, so they could give us an indication, or did they in fact do that before?
I don't know if I'm going to answer your question with this, but I will say this: the sheriff has had several outside organizations come in and review, although their specific review has not been directed at the funding formula. I think that committee could discuss that with them. One other thing let me say about Metro also. According to statute, the auditor for Metro, their operations, is really the county auditor and not us. This probably is the only thing that we touch them with. We probably have a real clear right to ask questions on outside as far as audit questions go. And the county auditor does do work and does do some performance audits for them. So, and those audits could be available, especially to that committee that reviews the funding and the operations. So, I don't know if I answered your question. I think I didn't, but I think they could have some impact on it.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, my recollection's consistent with Mr. Vincent's that there was a time when we were paying 43 or 45% of the ticket. And one of the issues that's always gone into this is the essential criteria they use about calls for service, which makes perfect sense. The cop has to go to the city, we should pay. Cop has to go to the county, they should pay, and you sort that all out. But there's a couple of concentrated areas beyond the issue of which side of Sahara the call might be on, and that's that an officer rolls up to City Hall and tells the dispatcher he's code 7 for business inside this building, and it happens a lot, and it's in the city. Or somebody who makes an arrest in the county rolls up to the county, to the city jail that is down the street in the city, and it's the dispatchers that are collecting the information. A thought has occurred to me, because I can see the challenge of analyzing all of these things, is that if an auditor was engaged, might be able to take it in small slices as verification and then give you a conclusion about whether it was worth expanding it and doing it all. Because whether it was broken down on a day or a week or a month, and every single one was calculated, we would learn on that snapshot whether we were getting a heavy-handed slant towards the calls that were arriving down at the detention facility or the city jail or City Hall. And you might not have to analyze every single call for the year's period to find out if 39 was the precisely correct number. So, can you imagine that it could be done for less if it was sliced and analyzed? If he takes a few weeks and looks at it and it sorts out correctly, then it might be worth saying we don't want to do the entire analysis.
I have a couple of thoughts on that. First, I think that if we limit the scope on what we do, I think you could get some things done at less cost. We could also focus in on the issues that are more likely to be in question. And then the other side of that is that I think we may get some pushback from the sheriff's department if we come in and we want to audit here this far, and then we may come back and we may audit a little further. And I think we'll begin to get some pushback, because it does take some of their staff time to deal with us when we start doing that. So can it be done? Yes. And I think it could. I think that's a good approach. If we had the ability to say how much we wanted to cooperate, well, then I think we could probably do it without a problem, and it would probably be a good approach. When we're dealing with an outside entity, then it becomes a little bit of a wild card. I'm not sure where they would go with it, but yeah, I think it could be done.
One more thing to point out as far as the current audit service being provided directly by the county, where it's to their advantage to pay less and have us pay more. The Fiscal Affairs Committee, which controls the finances, has a single county commissioner, a single city council member, 2 of each, and then one outside citizen. They're also advised by the district attorney's office. It's a regular legal advisor. And I'm unfamiliar with the decision that was made where this sort of hybrid entity that is both city and county, where the decision was made that it was going to be the county which was going to provide their legal services at all of their meetings. So if we're going to have an argument with fiscal affairs, we need to be prepared to have a presence as well from our office, because they're going to turn to their legal advisor, who's a deputy district attorney.
Mr. Vincent?
Just one last comment on that, and then start to drag this out. The county is the fiscal agent for Metro. Metro is a component unit of the county, so the original idea of the consolidation is most Metro services originally were getting from the county. They were getting accounting and budgeting and purchasing and legal services from the county. As the years wore on and Metro got larger, they started taking on more and more of those responsibilities themselves and funding them out of their operating budget. But for example, up until this fiscal year, they were still getting purchasing services from the county. They had issues with the purchasing services from the county, so now they have their own 3-person purchasing staff at Metro. So the ideas of consolidation, what that brings, sometimes we decide what happens over years, but that's the case.
All right, then we will, I guess the recommendation from staff is to defer this project to a later date.
What my recommendation would be to suspend this particular one, but leave the Metro funding on within the auditable entities, and as it's going to come to close to the top anytime that we do a priority. Anytime that we assign risk, it's going to come close to the top because of the dollars that are involved in it. But what I would do is I would suspend this particular project and leave it within the audit plan, and then as funds become available again, well then look again at this. That would be my recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, and maybe this wouldn't be of value, and that's what it would have to be, but according to Mr. Redline's comments, if we would do an interim study, a study to see if there were concerns, not an exhaustive audit, not an outside complete audit, but something to give us some feedback that would be valuable, but at the same time would be seen as relevant from Metro, so that they would cooperate. What about an idea of, again, not an exhaustive thing, but an interim study where you go to UNLV and you have a professor there that takes on a project, and then they would have auditor people that are being trained to do that. Again, not exhaustive, but they would come in and look and do and cut their teeth on it under the guise of and guidance of an auditor of high competence, that we would take these pieces of this and get a feel for it, and then know whether we need to take the stand and hit the county again or do it on our own.
I think that we could do that. I think that it would be a good approach. I think what we need to do, though, is that I think that the sheriff needs to be approached from the, and I'm sorry, I couldn't remember the name of the committee, the Fiscal Affairs Committee, but I think he ought to be approached from that group. Because if you remember, Karen Keller told me that, and I think she was looking at she thought that we had the same level within the organization as the county auditor did. And the county auditor reports up through the county manager. And so I think it would probably need to be, he would need to be approached by that committee or by some type of an initiative from that committee, which would represent the city and the county, to see if they would be willing to do that. I mean, I think that's an approach.
And I can certainly, I'm one of the 2 City of Las Vegas members of Fiscal Affairs, so I can certainly approach the sheriff and get some feedback for this committee. So understanding your recommendation, I will move to follow that staff recommendation. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7.
Item number 7 is discussion and possible action on the audit of human resources, personnel services, employee records. Nancy Beatty was the lead auditor on this project, and she will now present the report.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. As part of our annual audit plan, we completed an audit of human resources, personnel services, employee records. Personnel Services provides support services to city departments. These services include an active recruitment of candidates for city positions, processing selected candidates into city employment, maintaining employee records, and maintaining the human resource information system. Our audit objectives included ensuring that management controls over employees' records were appropriate and maintained in accordance with applicable laws and regulations. I'd like to now briefly review our audit findings. 22 Oracle reports were identified as including employee Social Security numbers. Users of these reports indicated that Social Security numbers are not always necessary. Reconciliations of the employee final paycheck effective date to the final time card were not always included in the employee records. An established process required that 2 employees share their computer network access passwords. The Oracle access for an independent consultant was not removed at the completion of her assignment. The Personnel Services draft records retention schedule did not conform to the local government records retention schedule. And the education and employment verification documentation for 3 of 25 employees hired during calendar year 2007 could not be located. This audit was released on June 30th. In the management response, Human Resource indicated that they have completed 5 of the 6 recommendations, and I'm currently in the process of verifying that. I'm open for questions.
Mr. Chairman. Councilman? I assume from the findings, there are recommendations to correct these wrongs.
Right.
And those are the things that you said that they've corrected most and are still working to finish the rest.
Like I said, I'm in the process of verifying. For example, with the Oracle reports, they discontinued 8 of those reports because they determined that they switched to employee ID number instead of Social Security number because they realized they didn't need to use the Social Security number in those reports. For the reconciliation of the final paycheck, what they determined is for full-time employees, that process was being completed, but it was not always being completed for substitute or hourly employees. And so they implemented processes to make sure that it's done for all employees. For the shared access password, this is to process EPRs, and what they did is they set up a access where more people can access and not using a person's personal email account. So you didn't have to share the password anymore. The Oracle access for the independent consultant was removed, and they determined that in the future they want to make sure that that doesn't happen again. They worked with staff to update the records, and then they implemented a process to ensure that all employees go through that education and employment verification process.
Thank you.
And with regard to the records being retained, again, do you feel confident they will have a retention schedule that will coincide?
Right. The policy changed last summer. It was updated, and they had a draft policy in place, but it hadn't been finalized, and they were working off the draft one. And what I did is I compared the state to what theirs are, and I made some recommendations for tweaking a lot of it to make, like in some indications they would say it's done through this report or this system, and but as far as how long it's retained, wasn't clear. It's just a lot of clarification.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, Claudette Enos, the Director of Human Resources, is here today, and I just wanted to let you know that we received great cooperation from Human Resources. I think that all of the issues were quickly addressed, and they were very forthcoming in helping us with this. So it was a good opportunity, I think, and a good result. I think we found some things that needed to be remedied, and they've all been done. It was a good audit.
It looks like the critical items were completed already.
Yes.
Great. Well, that's why we're here. It's a good story. Thank you, Claudette. And thank you to the team members in HR that helped out. Any other comments or questions? We'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
On the floor, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8 is citizens' participation. Is there anyone wishing to speak to the Audit Committee this morning?
Yes.
Mr. Russell,
Good morning, Mr.
we're honored with your presence. Is this the first at the Audit Committee, or?
Yes, it is. I want everything changed. My name is Teddy Russell. I'm a resident of Las Vegas. I suppose world economics is my leading area of expertise.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Russell, hold on just a second.
Microphone?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
We even have a chair for
Story
you.
of my life.
Mark, would you slide that chair? All right, he's going around that way, that's fine.
Okay, I'll start over again. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Committee. My name is Teddy Russell. I'm a resident of Las Vegas. One of my leading areas of expertise is world economics. I sent a note to Mayor Goodman about 4 months ago, which said of the major nations, there remain only two of the major nations with a viable economy, which intriguingly enough are Russia and Brazil. Locally, and what is more cogent, more relevant to our situation is if you had $10 million in MGM Mirage at January 1st, you would find the unpleasant prospect of today having $2.3 million. They're down 73% on the year. I also very recently sent a long, worldwide analysis of the economy and its relevance for America to Senator Reid. The news is exceedingly grim. Long-term, of course, we depend not only on Carson City, but on the outcome of the election. The Democrats will obtain the White House in a large plurality. We are in a period of epic stagflation, which means while the prices are rising, things are gathering dust in the warehouses. Service is down also. This is not good. We're going to be very hard-pressed. I depend on the expertise of all the people that work for the fine city of Las Vegas to get us through it, but it's going to be years and years and years of abysmal economy. I was born on April 18th. April 18th in '76 was Paul Revere's ride. At this particular time in my work, I find myself giving a lot of very unpleasant, very grim news. But this is the reality. We're in for a long, tough time, and we're going to have to be innovative, creative, passionate, and I know the city of Las Vegas, we will do well, but this is not a good time. That's all I have. Thank you. And I did want to mention also that I'll be going into the economy and prospects and this and that in much more detail at the next board meeting of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. This is my last meeting of the week. I am so happy, a little bit hungover, but thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you, Teddy. Does anybody here know the Paul Revere poem, the start of the Paul Revere poem? I want you to research it for me, but listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere on the 18th of April in '75. Hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. So those that are interested, please go research.
Well, I have
for the record, no, you're done, Teddy. For the record,
So are you.
Chairman was called at the last minute into my understanding is a court case, so please excuse him on the record, and congratulations and our sincere thanks to our committee members. We, at City Council yesterday, reappointed everybody to the committee, and we certainly appreciate your work on behalf of the city.
Whether you wanted it or not. You weren't there, so.
We did get advice.
Thanks, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Councilman, guess what?